Now folks, I'm not going to do much today except post a very interesting video by Mark Thompson. And I'm not going to comment through the video because it's a bit above my pay grade, I'm afraid. Now I've met Mark and he is a straight shooter, and everything he talks about in this video most certainly isn't above his pay grade. And I'm rather hoping he is going to be around today to maybe respond to some of your comments. Anyway, I've posted a link to his BitTube channel in the description below, along with a link to more questions from the Outdoors Party. And hat tip to Pauline France for that. And finally, let's wish President Trump and the First Lady a speedy recovery.
My fellow New Zealanders, the following is an announcement to all people of New Zealand following failed attempts to get the mainstream media to bring a certain matter to your attention. If my assertions are correct, the election on October 17, which actually opens for early voting this coming Saturday, may have to be deferred to allow the Electoral Commission time to print new ballot papers, excluding a party that I believe they have registered either in error or deliberately so illegally. No advance NZ means they must be deregistered, backdated to the date of registration, August the 6th or 7th, I believe. Existing ballot papers destroyed and new papers reprinted. In this vlog, I shall provide you a 10-minute overview for those short on time, and then later in a separate vlog, I shall wade into the detail for those who wish the full back story. These opinions that I make have been vetted by at least one NZ barrister. My next step is to engage a legal team to assist me to take on the Electoral Commission, the New Zealand government, who may be complicit in what I believe is either at best a complete act of ineptitude on behalf of the Electoral Commission, or at worst some sort of government, possibly media cover-up of potential corruption within the New Zealand voting system. My apologies that I am reading this. I'm wading into some very serious allegations against Advance NZ, NZ Public Party, the Electoral Commission, possibly the Office of the Prime Minister, and against mainstream NZ media outlets. In making this statement, I am aware I shall be further attacked and vilified and possibly exposed to legal challenge. I welcome the latter, but wish to stay on script as to the allegations so I can be very clear with you and very correct in what I suggest. Firstly, some credentials. My name is Mark Thompson. I've been a chartered accountant in public practice in New Zealand for over 30 years prior to leaving New Zealand and operating businesses in Australia and further afield. During my professional life and business life, I have written or reviewed thousands of legal foundational documents. In fact, I specialised in assisting companies and individuals form family trusts, form business entities, and some very complex legal structures to protect their business assets. So over that time, I have written a lot of my own documents for my own various businesses and entrepreneurial initiatives, and had those vetted by lawyers. So I understand contract law, which I did as part of my training to be a professional accountant, and subsequent training I've done since gaining my accounting qualifications. Might I say, never once, not once, in 30 plus years of professional practice experience and over 40 years of business have I ever seen an entity exist in the absence of a founding document. Not once. I've been in discussion with the Electoral Commission on various electoral matters going back some months, and more latterly on this particular issue regarding the registration of Advance NZ. I need to point out I am not an officer, employee or servant of any political party, though I do enjoy great relationships with a number of minor party leaders, their boards, their teams and candidates, and supporters in fact. I also have friendships with various National Party MPs and candidates. This is my opinion. I am not being paid or supported in any way by any political party to do this. This is all on my bat. My central assertion: Jamie Lee Ross's Advance Party is a non-entity, as also is Billy Te Kahika's NZ Public Party. Neither party exists in law, but are merely social media constructs or imageries that are operated and managed by third-party entities. In the case of Advance New Zealand, possibly a family trust established by Jamie Lee Ross with his wife. In the case of New Zealand Public Party, it is a company called Rubicon Crossing Limited. Nothing to do with Lee Williams of the YouTube channel Crossing the Rubicon, but in fact a company owned and operated by Billy Te Kahika and his offsider Michael Stace, also known as Michael Alexander Husarek Leon, prior to him changing his name when he came to New Zealand a number of years ago. Let's wade now into the detail. If you go to the Electoral Commission website, you will find there are 18 parties registered currently with the Electoral Commission. 17 of those 18 parties have founding documents submitted, typically a constitution and rules document, typically anywhere from 10 to 40 pages long. Advance New Zealand, by contrast, has a 2-pager double-spaced document I'm holding up in front of you. That is not a constitution. It was submitted by Jamie Lee Ross at least 3 days. It's dated, you can see here, the 9th of September. It should have been submitted by the 6th of September, 30 days after the party was registered. It was dated the 9th of September, so possibly was submitted on that day or some day since that day. That is a minor point. The major point is that this document is not a founding document and does not create a legal entity known as Advance New Zealand. Secondly, many, but not all, of the parties are registered legal societies. Now, this is not a requirement. It's been a red herring that the Electoral Commission have thrown back at me. Never have I questioned the need for a political party to be an incorporated society, but a society or some other form of legal being it must be. A legal society is preferable for accounting, tax and transparency, and to fulfil the requirements of the Electoral Act, but not necessarily mandatory, just advisable. Such a document is essential because it forms a contract between you or myself as a member of that party, allowing for the removal of officers of the party or candidates, appointment and removal of the board, etc., etc. Jamie Lee's mini document makes no such provision, but it does talk about a board having full power. It seems that this document, or whatever it is part of, seems to create a dictatorial type situation where the board has full power, can remove its members, and yet no provisions for removal of the board itself, nor the removal of any candidates apart from the board. Of course, you can probably guess who the board members are going to be, but hey, before a board can be created, there must be an entity to which the board belongs. So let's move on further. If Jamie has a secret trust that is ostensibly the party, it is impossible for members to be a member of that trust. A trust has 3 parties, 3. It has a settlor, the person that sets the trust up. It has trustees, effectively the officers of the trust, like directors of a company, you might compare, and it has beneficiaries, the people who stand to benefit from the trust. Members could never conceivably all be trustees. That would necessitate 7,000 members signing every cheque and being signatories to every document the party enters. Of course, that is not the case. Ditto, they can't be beneficiaries. A trust deed does not provide for membership per se, and I cannot possibly fathom how a trust deed could ever be operating as a political party. Ditto if it was a partnership. A partnership structure is a partner between two or more natural persons, i.e. human beings, and in which case they're all jointly and severally liable and they would be required to sign every document. Of course, again, that would not happen. It is impossible to have a board set up of a non-entity or set up bank accounts or have an auditor. All of those are requirements of the Electoral Act. So whilst the Act may be deficient, and it is a very poorly written piece of legislation in my opinion and in the opinion of a number of constitutional lawyers I've spoken to, and does possibly need a complete overhaul, it is implicit in contract law that for an entity to exist, there must be a contract and there must be two parties, and both parties must legally exist. This seems to be gravely overlooked by the 5 lawyers at the Electoral Commission who seem to be lacking an understanding in the most basic of contract law. They were brought to the attention of senior legal advisors there, 5 of them headed up by a 6th, whose name is Ms. Katrina Temmel, over a week ago. They attempted to obfuscate the issue and throw out all manner of red herrings to me to try and throw me off the scent, addressing issues that I did not raise, but failing to address the central issues I did raise. This on the back of earlier correspondence I made with them in early August when I raised a number of concerning issues with the registration of Advanced New Zealand. They initially agreed with me, then they did a 180-degree turn, and in just a couple of days later registered Advanced NZ just before the deadline. When I raised these matters a week ago, the Electoral Commission refused to allow me to escalate to their Chief Electoral Officer, Ms. Alicia Wright, and Board Chair, Ms. Marie Schroff, and Deputy Chair, a barrister, Jane Mears. I persisted, and whilst they are still trying to stonewall me, they have now given me a liaison person who is in fact doesn't even have a telephone on his desk because he's been brought in to do a number of functions and has been given the task of liaising with me and effectively stonewalling me from speaking with any of these board people or the CEO. They're far too busy, they say, even for a matter such as this that could cause the New Zealand election to be delayed possibly by as much as a week or longer. My question, why does it take a team of 7 lawyers, the staff of 5, the head of department and deputy chair, plus other external solicitors, so many days to determine this fundamental issue? An issue of contract law 101, Professor, could clear up in 5 minutes. This smells of corruption, folks. I also took the matter to multiple media outlets. All who engaged with me were initially highly interested. Then they went dark, refusing to respond to calls and texts and emails. This was TVNZ, TV3 or MediaWorks and the AM show, even ZB Talkback and the Mike Hosking show. Why are all these outlets, even ones we consider the last remaining bastions of journalistic truth in New Zealand, shutting me down? Is it that it's a non-story? that I'm totally deluded in my opinion, despite the fact that one or two barristers fundamentally agree with me? Or is there some form of gag order over the media regarding this matter and the upcoming election? In earlier correspondence to the Electoral Commission, I raised the question whether the Prime Minister's office had any involvement in the decision to hastily register Advance NZ. I was told, of course, no, that the Electoral Commission operates separately from government. Not quite true, in that the board, and I presume also the Chief Electoral Officer, is a government appointee and currently reports to Andrew Little. So folks, there is the summary of what I believe is what one reporter referred to as a massive cluster. Yes, if I am indeed correct, then the Electoral Commission must speedily move to retract the registration of Advance New Zealand, advise New Zealand and the Prime Minister's office, withdraw all the ballot papers that have currently been printed that include Advance NZ, and then reprint the ballot papers in time for election. Yes, this is a major problem. And as I said to the Electoral Commission last week, the longer they take digging a hole deeper and deeper for themselves, the more they show to New Zealand that they are possibly complicit in some corruption or at least a cover-up of their ineptitude. This cannot happen, folks. We need a government of transparency. This is what Jacinda has told us. She has a government of transparency. I am not seeing transparency in these intercourses with the Electoral Commission. What I am seeing is cover-ups, is time delays, is red herrings thrown out, and attempts to silence me. I'll leave you to consider those things as we shall watch with bated breath to see the outcome of this decision. I have been promised a response, or been indicated I shall get a response by Friday evening. Of course, early voting opens on Saturday, I presume Saturday 8 o'clock sometime. So there will be no time between Friday evening and Saturday, even if they do respond to me, for me to be able to do anything. I make this message in the hope that the word can get out there and that perhaps somebody will pull a finger at the Electoral Commission, determine what has gone wrong, determine how they're going to fix it, and how New Zealand can move forward with an election with only parties who actually exist. Thank you for listening, and please share this video if you feel